Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. Hopefully you guys are all having a fantastic day. There has been a lot of changes that have happened. There's a lot of new information to update you guys on. There has been lots of busyness in Atlantic, insanity like I called it yesterday. But before we go spin off into this video, please consider subscribing to my channel. All you gotta do, if you don't know how to, it's simple. Scroll down the page. There's a button like this. Hit it. You'll see you're subscribed. You could also hit the bell icon. It shows up once you subscribe. You could hit that, and that gives you a notification every time I post a video. That is up to you. You could also like the video. Again, that's all up to you. It's just a great way to support my channel. So, Hurricane Beryl has been downgraded to a tropical storm, and it's still at 65 miles per hour. So, at 10 more miles. 10 miles stronger and it will be a hurricane, but it has been slightly weakening. It's been weakening a little bit more than expected. So the question is, some models are showing it actually holding itself together through the Caribbean islands and through Cuba, through the Bahamas, and go right up the East Coast and strengthen back to a hurricane. So the question is, will Hurricane Beryl end up impacting the Northeast? And right now the National Hurricane Center has a you can see dissipating, because this is potential track area 1, 2, 3, and this is the full forecast. And if this storm product is forecast to dissipate within 3 days, the full forecast and 3-day forecast will be identical. So you can see they're identical. So it will, it's forecast to dissipate within 3 days, which in my opinion, I don't think it will. But that is up to the National Hurricane Center to put up their own advisories. You can see it's going to maintain its storm strength all the way through Tuesday morning once it hits the Dominican Republic and Haiti. But it could go a little bit further north, further south. It really depends. But the thing is, some models are showing it surviving through this wind shear and going up here in the warm waters and just exploding in growth. So that is the first concern, and I'll show you guys that right now actually. The biggest supporter of that was the GFS. However, now it is back down. You can see here is the Tropical Depression 3, and that is forecast to also become a hurricane right off the coast of Canada, which doesn't happen too often. But you can see nothing really much happening afterwards. The Hurricane Beryl isn't forecast to come up. So actually, if we go back to regions and go to Western Atlantic, click on hour 6, which is currently right now, there's Tropical Storm Beryl as it's barreling across the Atlantic. And you can see it just dissipates, falls apart, tries reforming right here. It just ends up into quite a bit of rain and shower activity, not a hurricane or a storm. So at this point, the GFS is back down. However, the Canadian model, if we go and take a peek, let's bring this back to hour 6. This is Tropical Depression 3. I think that's its name, right? Tropical Depression 3. Let me quickly check that. Yeah, Tropical Depression 3. Yes, that is Tropical Depression 3. That is Tropical Storm Beryl, former hurricane, the first hurricane to ever form in Atlantic. You can see that is a Tropical Storm 3, a Tropical Depression 3, and it's forming also. But you could see right here, Tropical Storm Beryl is making a northern turn right here, and it's surviving through the wind shear. And it actually survives right here. You can see that's Tropical Storm Beryl, maybe now even hurricane at this point. This would be midweek this next week. And this is Tropical Depression 3, which at this point could be a hurricane. So now let's go to regions and let's shift to eastern US so we have a better look. You can see the CMC has it closer to shore, but it's going to be a big storm nevertheless. Tropical Depression 3 is going to turn into a big storm, and then Tropical Storm Beryl, you could see a small hurricane. We don't know if it's going to be a hurricane, but at this point, 994, that may be Category 1, and you can see the CMC definitely has it showing a couple signs of strengthening after it passes through the Caribbean Sea. So the question is, which one's right? At this point, it's hard to say, but since the National Hurricane Center is leaning towards the GFS side, there must be a reason for it. But again, the National Hurricane Center isn't perfect, and soon the European model will be coming out because it comes out at noon, and it's 11:51 a.m. right now. So the latest run of the European model has Tropical Depression 3 slightly forming right there. You can see that's remnants of it, and it does have Hurricane Beryl strengthening and leaving through. That is essentially Tropical Storm Beryl right there. You can see it reforms right there and goes up the coast. So the CMC and European model both have Tropical Storm Beryl. Right now, Tropical Storm Beryl having it survive through the wind shear and going right up the coast of, I mean, not right up the coast, but close, within 100 miles or 200 miles off the coast of New England and the East Coast. So this is definitely something we'll need to keep watching. And if you're wondering now how strong the winds are going to be, let's go to this TFS for just for sakes of showing you the lower end. I think the GFS is underplaying it. So this is right now Tropical Depression 3. You could see, sorry, very non-weak, very weak winds, nothing strong, maybe up to 28 miles per hour. Because this is knots, so again, that's around probably 24 knots, so maybe in wind speed it's going to be 30. And you can see then it does strengthen, and it does show some signs of, you know, fairly strong characteristics of a hurricane, like those purples and whites. That is around 64 knots, so that is definitely a hurricane at that point. And it is forecast to become a hurricane, which I'll show you in a minute. And you can see later on it doesn't really have nothing else right there. That might be remnants of Tropical Storm Beryl right there going up the East Coast. The CMC, on the other hand, has Tropical Storm Beryl in a much different situation. You can see this thing, Tropical Depression 3, has going at around 56 knots, so that is around 60 miles per hour, which is borderline Category 1 hurricane. About 15 more miles strengthening, and it would be a Category 1. And then this hurricane right here would be Hurricane Beryl, and 994, that would definitely be a hurricane. You could see some blues, some purple, so that's around 60 miles per hour. So that's, yeah, that would be a Category 1 hurricane. So sorry if I'm mixing up the names of these Tropical 3 and things, because it's really confusing sometimes. Tropical Storm Beryl, Tropical Depression 3. It's just try saying that. Tropical Storm Beryl, Tropical Depression 3, Tropical Storm. It's just kind of a tongue twister. But now let's go to Tropical Depression 3. And sorry for all this, my pulling my nose and like coughing and all that, because I have slight allergies, so that is a little bit of an issue. But you can see it is right now a depression, and it's forecast to be very slowly moving, and by 8 o'clock Tuesday it could become a storm, or actually earlier, 8 o'clock Sunday morning, but then 8 a.m. Tuesday morning still a storm. And this is 1 to 3 days, and then within the 4 to 5 day area it becomes a hurricane right here. You can see the H. H stands for hurricane, just trust me on that right there. H, hurricane, wind speed between 74 and 110. But then it does weaken, since the waters here are obviously much cooler and non-favorable for the hurricane development. But again, this cone is not the area of impact. This cone is wherever the center of the eye can go. So if the center of the eye goes right along this white line right here, which is possible, according to National Hurricane Center, the impacts will be stretching out towards here. If it goes right here to the center, then the impacts will be reaching Boston, Rhode Island, Connecticut, Long Island. Long Island, Rhode Island. Sorry if I got those two mixed up. But definitely there is still a potential for the Northeast to get impacted, even though the models have been indicating slight movements out into the sea with the storm, not really affecting the Northeast as much as previously thought. But this is still something we need to keep an eye on for, and definitely that could be a threat. So now let's go to rainfall amounts, total accumulated precip. You can see a lot of rain, and this is up to 2 feet of rain, 3 feet of rain. So if this was shifted a little bit further to the east or to the west, this could lead to a lot of flooding. But again, will it at this point? Not likely, but it's still still a potential. So hurricane, now Tropical Depression 3 may become a hurricane, and it most likely will become a hurricane. That one most likely won't impact the United States. However, it still might. I mean, it probably for sure will in rip currents affect it, but in terms of rainfall and strong winds, maybe not. Maybe we'll get lucked out on that. But if Hurricane Beryl or Tropical Storm Beryl, former hurricane, if Tropical Storm Beryl survives and lands through the Caribbean islands and goes up the coast, and it say goes right into North Carolina, or right into the Cape Cod area, you know, Long Island area, so that could definitely be a threat. So I'm not excluding out that. We still need to keep an eye on for the hurricanes, tropical storm, tropical depressions. This is very active weather. Sorry, I can't speak today. Fairly active weather, and I definitely need to keep an eye on for it. So if you're wondering what the spaghetti models are showing with Hurricane Beryl, or should I say former hurricane, these are all the different models what are showing. You can see a lot of the models are actually showing Tropical Storm Beryl surviving and going up the east coast. Now, some of them are showing going into Yucatan Peninsula, maybe possibly going into the Gulf of Mexico, which would probably be the worst case scenario. But a lot of them do make it die off, first off. Some of them you can see ends right there, just dies off. But a lot of them still keep going forward and, you know, make it go up the eastern coast. Sorry, I can't talk today. And as you can see, these are the expected winds. 5-day chance of receiving sustained 34 knots or 39 miles winds, 39 mile per hour winds. And you can see the reds indicate 80%, and then further you go, the yellows indicate 30 or 40%, and the greens are basically on Monday 8 p.m. they're unsure if it's even gonna survive that long. So this is definitely something we need to keep watch for. This is definitely something that is, you know, we need to keep a track for. This is another view of their spaghetti models. You can see these are the different models, the HWFI. I'm not really familiar with these models. I don't know really individual ones. So again, even shows right here, do not use this map to make decisions, seek official info. However, sometimes, to be honest, spaghetti models are better than official info, because official info can be biased based on what the organization wants or, you know, wants to obtain. So spaghetti models are a very good source of information in my opinion. You can see fairly confident within this area that the models will be going here, but then some of them start tearing off towards the Gulf of Mexico. Some of them start tearing off. Some of them go right into Florida. There's one that goes right into Florida, which probably won't happen, but it's either going to go right here into Gulf of Mexico, Central America. It's going to die off over the islands, Caribbean Sea, or it's going to keep going through the Bahamas and go out into the northeast, Northern Atlantic Ocean. All of these things are possibilities. All of these things we need to keep an eye for, and all of these things are definitely a thing we need to keep an eye on for. So that's basically it for today's video. I could show you actually the temperatures for the United States, because the temperatures I know will be starting to heat up again. So let's go to 2-meter temperature anomaly. Let's go to regions and ConUS. They will be warming up for quite a while in the next couple of days. So you can see right now some cooler weather, but then the heat starts taking a toll again. You can see some of those reds start popping up, and I think the GFS is actually very conservative with this, and I don't think there's going to be nearly as much blues as it's showing, but you can see it does have quite a bit of blues apparently towards this. But even if it does have a lot of blues, the 2-meter temperature shaded are still, that doesn't mean it's cold. You could still see very warm temperatures across the center of the country. I mean, look at this, 108, 109, very warm temperatures, and I think the GFS is conservative. If we go to the CMC, I think it might be a little bit on a warmer side. Yeah, it's a little bit on the warmer side for much of the country. So I think the GFS at this point isn't doing a well job with the temperatures, and that's why maybe doing a well job with the hurricanes out there, tropical storms, tracking them. So we need to look at all the models and see what they have to say and make our own decisions. So at this point, my decision that I have to make is there's definitely a potential for Tropical Storm Beryl to survive the wind shear and strengthen back into a hurricane along the Northern Atlantic Ocean. There's also my second part of my decision is that Tropical Depression 3 will become a hurricane and may still impact the Northeast in terms of wind and rainfall, but that is lessening as we go on. But that is basically it, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Please consider subscribing to my channel. Please consider liking the video. And as always, see you guys at the next episode.